when you said speaking of Harry and you started talking about this, I wasn't going to go into that, but I was going to go into other autobiographies that have been released this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's get into that.
So Elon Musk's autobiography got released probably like in the last month and a half.
Oh.
Which I also have on Audible that I haven't listened to yet. This one is interesting because obviously he didn't write it himself, and that's like a known thing. There was a writer who's known, a prolific autobiographer. I don't know what other autobiographies he wrote. I'd have to like look it up. Followed him around, I think, for 2 years in order to like interview him and write this autobiography. So it's really an autobiography, but also it's not, because it's perspective of Elon based on interviews. So they talk about certain aspects of Elon's personality in the book, where in the workplace he goes into what the biographer calls demon mode.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Where he basically like rips people a new one. Like he just becomes this other dark personality where he just like goes at people. So I'm interested to hear about stuff, because I know he grew up in South Africa. He went to school in Queens here in Canada, and then transferred to like grad school in the US, I think at like Stanford or something. I can't remember. But his dad was very abusive. He grew up in an abusive household. He's the oldest of 3. And his dad was very cruel to him growing up. So I think like that plays a lot into his psyche now, but also like makes him driven, but also makes him like dark.
Yikes. But I also feel like if you're in that type of position, like where he is in his life, you need to have that type of personality within you.
Ooh, look at you kind of like advocating for him.
I'm not. Oh my God, I'm not. I'm not his fan at all. I just feel like it makes sense that, a demon comes out. That makes sense.
Fair. I don't hate Elon Musk by any means. I wouldn't say like I'm a super fan. I just respect his work. I think he does dumb things with Teslas, but that's besides the point. Interestingly,
and naming his kids and naming his kids
and his fascination with the letter X. And I'm going to say this because his most recent, I would say it's not even his most recent son. He has like 12 children. I can't remember where this one child is in the group, because he had twins with this other Canadian lady, and then now he's had another third child with Grimes recently that we found out about. Anyway, when he got really rich back, I guess when in his 20s, 20 plus years ago now, what he had created was like an online platform to be able to like move money. Like a transfer thing. And that was called X. It was called X.com, and PayPal bought it. So he has this fascination with the letter X, because his aerospace company, rocket company, is called SpaceX. So there's something about him and the letter X.
So interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to meet him though. Like, I want to know how socially awkward he is in person.
I'll pass. Do you have any other autobiographies?
It's Britney, bitch. Her autobiography just dropped.
Yes, and like, there's so much. There's so much. Just like all the little snippets here and there before the book even got released.
Yeah.
Like that was like leading up to it. Ooh.
Yeah, because
that was good.
It takes you back though, because I'm like, I was living in this moment. I was living my life as a grown-up-ish in the Britney era, right? Like NSYNC, Britney, the breakup, the Cry Me a River song, Kevin Federline, the song Every Time now that we know has a completely different meaning. Mm-hmm. Though, now when I think about it, when she recorded that, she wasn't with Justin anymore, so she was already with Kevin. But anyway, besides the point, like, it makes me... I did have some emotional reflection I had to do when I, like, heard some of these, like, leaks specifically related to Justin. Because I'm like, he always gave the vibe, like, he was like, oh, I'm a nice guy, but really, like, he could be a douche behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And then it made me think about that whole debacle with Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl years ago when she exposed her boob accidentally, and the backlash she got, and Justin was just like, quiet. So it gave me all those feelings again, but I'm like, also, this was 20 years ago. He's a grown man now. Do we cancel Justin? Like, do I have feelings about it? Is this his fault, really? I mean, he was a cheater, but I'm like, do I just like get over it, or like do I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. I don't necessarily think that Justin's like the greatest person, and I'm just gonna like move on.
But I truly think it was strategic. That I think he knew when the book was when it was getting released, maybe around the date when it was getting released, because he got back together with NSYNC.
Yeah.
And they did a special and they did something. So maybe he was trying to like take the focus off of the book being released and be like, hey, look, NSYNC is back. You guys wanted this forever.
That's an interesting point you're actually making, Sarah, because for a long time, I don't know if he actually vocalized it, but it gave the impression that it's like NSYNC's in the past and we're never, in quoting Taylor Swift, we are never ever getting back together.
Exactly.
So you are making a valid point. They did record a song for, I feel like the new Trolls movie or something. Like they're on like Trolls 5 now at this point.
Yeah.
And then he did do a movie that was on Netflix. And they did do, as a group, they did I don't want to call it a guest spot, but there's this YouTube series called like Hot Ones. Have you heard about this? Where all the celebrities go and they eat very hot wings, right? Chicken wings.
Yes.
And they went on there as like a group, which would seem like would never normally happen. So you're right. Like it might have been a big deflection. And maybe because Britney was going to be talking about Justin, her people would have said to him, his people, this is coming out.
Exactly.
That's a good point. You're so smart.
I know.
Should be
Do you have any other
social media reporter?
Autobiographies?
There probably are more, but those are the only ones that like were on my radar, the ones that I cared about.
Yeah. And the big ones. Yeah. Gotcha.